And if the human party involved in the covenant does not keep the conditions of the covenant, there are consequences. And that's what we're going to focus on today quite a bit, is that there are consequences to not participating as agreed to and obligated. That's really, I think, really a big word we didn't really important word we didn't put into this yet. When you covenant, you obligate yourself. I don't think I said that in the other 4 parts. I just want to make sure that's clear. So we see here that the Sabbath, and that's why we see throughout the prophets why it's so critical and why Israel and Judah got in so much trouble if they ever broke the Sabbath, why the Sabbath is so critical. In everybody's Bible, this exists. So then how can we ever get to the place where the Catholic Church started the process of moving or changing or doing anything to the Sabbath? I mean, this is the sign. And so when you keep it, what are you doing? You're showing that you're part of this covenant. When you don't, you're showing that you're not. Profane has the understanding, I believe, of taking something and not using it appropriately. Not handling it appropriately the way it was designed to be handled. So when you do things that are against what he said Sabbath-wise, you're profaning it. Also, when you do things that he said you shouldn't do, you're actually profaning what it means to be a human being, because you were actually made to do certain things. You're walking in a profane manner. The guarding is the problem. I know you guys want to be submissive to Torah. I know you want to be submissive to the Creator. I know that you want to get this right, but you mess up not just because your heart's wrong and everything else, but because you're not guarding. Sometimes you just get caught off guard. Let's see, think about that phrase. In other words, you weren't staying in a wary, alert state. That's how you get caught off guard. 6 days you work, but on the 7th day you rest. In plowing time and in harvest time you rest. This is the first place and only place you see that. This little extra piece. You know about the 6 days, you work, and the 7th you rest. But why did he throw in the harvest time and the planting time, the plowing and harvest time? Why did he say that? Because there's no excuse to break Shabbat. Because if you're a farmer, when you got to get the crop in, you have to get the crop in. And when it's time to bring it out, you got to get it out. You got to harvest it. And he said, I know that's urgent to you, and you've got to get it done, but you don't do it on Shabbat. Guard my Sabbaths and reverence my set-apart place. I am Yahweh. By the way, don't think that you're, generationally might have been one of the first ones, or you've heard how parents love to say, because I said so. This is the Creator saying, because I said so. When a parent says, because I'm your mother, because I'm your father, what are they really saying? Because I have that authority. Well, why do I have to do that? Because I'm your mother. Well, why can't I do that? Because I'm your father and I said so. A covenant is what? Conditional. That's why there are consequences. There are conditions in the covenant. If you walk in my laws and guard my commands. What is he saying? If you keep my covenant. Because what is the covenant? To walk in his laws and keep his commands. That's really the simplicity of Exodus 19. So that you do not do all, this is where he says, if you reject my laws, if you're being loath my right rulings, so that you do not do all my commands or break my covenant. Also, by the way, when you don't do all the commands, he thinks of you as loathing his right rulings, rejecting him. And by the way, that's not really a bad way of putting it. Obviously, I shouldn't say that's the way he put it. It's the best way to put it. But if you think about it for your understanding, when you choose to do you instead of doing him, aren't you rejecting him and taking you over him? There's always those people out there that are kind of really sensitive emotionally to stuff and think, well, I might as well quit because I'm always going to be a disappointment. I'm always going to embarrass him, bring him shame. It's not shameful to be human and make a mistake or make a bad decision. What's shameful is to not fix it. Let's be clear on that. I'll say it again. It's not shameful to make a mistake or do something, even because you really wanted to, in your weakness. That's not the shame. The shame is what you do next if you don't fix it, if you don't repent, if you don't try to make restitution in some way, if there is something to do that can make restitution, that's where the shame comes. Oh, well, I'm submissive to him. Well, yeah, every time he says something and you agree with him, you do it. That's not submission. I want to know how many times when you didn't agree with him, you did it, and did it without whining, complaining, and making a big issue of it. That's submission. How many times, and husbands, wives, think about that. How many times have you actually submitted unto one another?